Hi everyone, my name is Catherine and today I'd like to give a short presentation on this paper with the title of Peer Feedback in Technology-Supported Learning Environment, a Comprehensive Review. First of all, let me briefly introduce the topic. Now, why is there a need to explore peer feedback? Peer feedback is defined as a communication process through which learners enter into dialogues related to their performance and standards. Peer feedback can be an important tool to facilitate student learning because students normally share their problems, languages, knowledge, as well as their vocabularies. Despite there is an extensive amount of literature on peer feedback, most of the studies were limited to face-to-face learning environment. Recent trends in peer feedback practices, however, have evidenced the use of technology. Given the growing importance of technology in peer feedback practices, a systematic search of databases was conducted to select articles related to peer feedback practices conducted with the use of technology. The objectives of this paper are, first, to find out the extent to which technology-supported peer feedback has been studied in different contexts of teaching and learning. Next, to identify the opportunities or affordances offered by technology-supported peer feedback activity, and to summarize the potential challenges or constraints of technology-supported peer feedback activity. To conduct a literature review, the research problem was formulated first. Next, a review protocol was developed. A review protocol will specify how the review is conducted, and this includes defining search strategies and inclusion criteria. Defining a search strategy involves two main stages: identification of keywords from research questions, and identification of the source of studies. As a result, two sets of keywords defined from research questions were used to search for literature from 2015 up to 2019, targeting at related research articles in the 5 most recent years. For initial screening, the research title, abstract or summary, and keywords were used to flag an article to check whether it is potentially relevant for further review. Next, with a thorough examination, a total of 33 research articles were selected for the review. Relevant data were extracted from each article and organized using a literature matrix. Next, a thematic analysis, which involves steps such as data coding, generating, reviewing, and defining themes, was conducted. To answer the first research question, which is concerned with the research focus, the aims, research objectives, and data analyzed by these studies were reviewed. As you can see here, the 3 most productive strengths of technology-supported peer feedback studies are centered around the different types or characteristics of peer feedback, students' perception on peer feedback experience, and the impacts of peer feedback on students' learning performance. Besides, in terms of classroom context, it was found that 75.8% of the studies were conducted in the context of student writing. Only a small number of studies were conducted in the context of student speaking. Among all the studies conducted in speaking context, 60% of them focused on developing students' oral presentation or speech delivery skills. Apart from writing and speaking context, other studies also involve the use of peer feedback and translation quizzes, vocabulary tasks, and micro-teaching. As for the second research question, the 3 most dominant affordances of technology-supported peer feedback activity are, first, provide opportunities for students to get high-quality feedback. A substantial body of evidence shows that peer feedback are detailed and constructive, prompt, specific, and contextualized. Students were found to produce slightly more comments of depth explained than their tutors. Majority of the comments were usable feedback which addressed genuine shortcomings. As for the second point, promoting students' deep self-reflection, students reported that engaging in technology-enhanced peer feedback sessions can help promote their deep reflection on writing processes. They can critically analyze their own work and reflect on themselves to improve their own performance. Students increase awareness of linguistic errors after identifying linguistic errors in their peers' work was also reported. Peer feedback activity in online mode was described as convenient and flexible. It was easy for students to keep track of their speech performance and give their feedback, as it is without time limit and physical barriers. With the use of technological tools, students reported that they could easily download and revise their peers' work online anyway and anytime. Then, how about the potential challenges or constraints of technology-supported peer feedback activity? It was found that 30.3% of the studies reported students' lack of confidence to provide feedback. It was noticed that peer feedback often consists of vague suggestions due to students' lack of confidence in their own ability to provide feedback. Compared to expert comments, students feel that their comments were not good enough. Some even question their ability to provide meaningful feedback for their peers. Next, this is followed by the issue on the lack of constructive peer feedback. Compared to instructors, students were found to provide more surface-level feedback. Another challenge is concerned with students' lack of trust in their peers' ability to provide feedback. Some postgraduates cast their doubts on reliability of the ideas and suggestions given by their peers. Some students thought that some of the comments from their peers might be wrong. Another challenge is related to students' lack of active response to peer feedback. Some of them did not revise their work meaningfully. Disagreement with peer comments, unwillingness to recognize the shortcomings of their work, some of the reasons suggested to explain the situation. Other issues are technical and task-related issues. As a conclusion, research on technology-supported peer feedback has centered on a few strands, focusing on different peer feedback types, characteristics, student perceptions on their peer feedback experience, and the impacts of peer feedback. Students' integration of peer feedback, which is a critically underexplored aspect, can be given more focus by future researchers. Furthermore, more studies should be conducted in speaking contexts in view of the limited studies in the literature. Literature has shown that technology-supported peer feedback can offer a lot potential advantages. Given the potentially intimidating nature of face-to-face peer feedback, educators can consider the use of effective digital tools to help enhance the efficacy of peer feedback. There is accumulating evidence that students' lack of confidence to provide feedback and lack of trust in their peers' ability as assessors might affect the efficacy of peer feedback. Other affecting constraints are concerned with students' inability to provide constructive peer feedback and their lack of active response to peer feedback. Proper guidance from teachers is thus called for to create a more supportive environment which is deemed necessary to enhance the efficacy of peer feedback in a technology-supported learning environment.